this morning. Got some gabagoo.
So Funko finally made The Sopranos, which is a line that I've been wanting for a long time because The Sopranos is my all-time favorite show. And a lot of people give it credit for kicking off this golden age of television that we're in. It proved that shows could be just as good as movies, if not better. So I was very excited when I saw The Sopranos announced by Funko. But they're not perfect, and I feel that Funko could have put way more effort into them. So this is a review of the common set. There's also going to be a Funko exclusive Polly Walnuts, which from the glams might be my favorite one, instantly recognizable. And there's an Amazon exclusive Tony in the bathrobe with one of the ducks, which was one of the storylines from the first season. Before we take a look at all the figures, let's have a look at the box, which is okay, right? Classic Sopranos logo on black. I like that. The gun sight on the numbers, that's cool too. You know, pretty simple. They did use this like fancy paisley pattern here, which is nice, right? It kind of reminds me of more of Carmella, really. But I think what I would have liked here is maybe an image of Jersey, like we see in the opening of The Sopranos. I think an image of Jersey here would have been a lot nicer. I don't know if they could just go take a picture of Jersey, but I'm sure they could license one. And I think that would have been a little nicer. Same with here on the back. But other than that, the box art is pretty cool. Something funny they could have done, right, that it would never work, but I think it would have been funny to just have this all black with nothing else on it so it looks like a mistake. If you've seen the finale of The Sopranos, you know what I'm talking about. It caused quite a commotion when that first happened. That would have been kind of clever. But yeah, nothing too special about the box. There's also a couple of Easter eggs on the inside flaps. The first one is Satriel's, the pork store they all hang out in. And the other one is the Bada Bing, the strip club that Tony owns. And let's start out with Tony Soprano. And it's recognizable as Tony Soprano because in a lot of the marketing, this is the pose, this is the image that they used. Him crossing his arms with this reddish shirt. So you kind of recognize him. But his head, to me anyway, it doesn't look much like James Gandolfini. Even though his head might be kind of hard to translate over into pop form. He doesn't have an easy hairstyle to translate. And look, I know he doesn't have like the best hairline going, but his bald spot isn't this severe. This is kind of odd the way they did it with these like sculpting lines like this. It just doesn't look right. It looks like the hair is being like sucked into a hole, kind of strange. And I know I've seen on way smaller figures than Funko them adding little hairlines, maybe something, but this doesn't exactly look too great. It's the back though, but also his hairline on top. Again, it's difficult to reproduce in Funko form, but you know, to me, it didn't turn out that well because Funko is so good about making great hairlines, right? And just with their hairline alone and the hair, they can make it look like the actors, but this one not so much. But the body sculpt does save it, and they did make him look kind of chunky. Sometimes the pops of overweight people don't look overweight, and this one does. Like, his belly does stick out. And the shirt is close enough, even though he does have some more iconic Tony Soprano shirts. And I do wish that all the gold was actually metallic instead of yellow. And Carmella Soprano. She looks, again, okay. Like, the hair sculpt is pretty decent. It does look like Carmella. And the stance, right? This is a classic Carmella Soprano stance when she's annoyed. It reminds me of when she's listening in on AJ. And I think AJ says something like, "Oh God, is she out there or is she listening?" And she just busts through the door and does this stance. It's kind of funny. That's the thing about Sopranos. It's almost like a secret comedy. There's so much funny moments in it. Even though it's a drama, it's actually one of the most hilarious shows I've ever seen. And a lot of the comedy does, come like that. It's not these overt jokes, but stuff like that, like Carmella busting in and doing this pose right at the right moment. But I think I would have preferred them giving her a little bit more of a classy outfit and maybe doing her makeup a little nicer than this, because this kind of makes her look... Honestly, this looks more like Adriana a little bit than Carmela. Even though I do think the hair is good, I wish they would have picked maybe a little bit of a classier outfit. And maybe bigger rings on her fingers, because she always has like a giant rock on her fingers and you can barely notice her jewelry. And just that tiny ring, that should be kind of a big band with maybe even a little clear piece on there to make it look like a big diamond. I think that would have looked a little better. And here is Silvio Dante, a fan favorite, very memorable character. If you notice something about these pops, is that they kind of look classic. Like some of the pops from 2015, 16, 17 even. Because the hair sculpts, it's kind of back to that kind of plain, and they just have these little marks on there. Where nowadays, they're doing way more elaborate hair. And I know Silvio just slicks his hair back. But again, I think this could have been done a little better. Maybe a little bigger wave up here. Have it go down a little bit more like Silvio's hair. And just sculpt it a little better. This looks pretty classic, right? And also, you know, this is the scene when he's imitating the Godfather, right? And he says, just when I think I was out, they pull me back in, right? So he's doing that with the hands. So it makes him recognizable as Silvio. But if he wasn't doing that, I wouldn't get that this is Silvio just from the head and this outfit, because this isn't even what he's wearing when he does that classic imitation in the show. I think he's wearing just like a black shiny shirt, which the black maybe should have been glossy or metallic, and he's wearing a tie and no suit jacket. And Silvio is known for being the suit guy, right? Getting these very elaborate, you know, suits, colorful, designer ties and stuff. And this right here just kind of makes him look like a hood and not exactly like Silvio Dante, right? I feel like maybe they could have gave him like a teal suit, metallic, nice tie, or just make it very accurate to the scene where he's doing this. But it's still okay for what it is. I just think it could have been a lot better. And lastly, to round out the common set, it's Christopher Moltisanti, one of my favorite characters. But just like the other guys, I think that they kind of missed the mark. I feel like Chris should have been wearing a nice suit, a tie, maybe from when he was made, or maybe suit and tie and a gun. Because, like he says in the show, he's a soldier, right? And this does not make him look like a soldier. He is holding this New Jersey bakery box. There's a scene early on where he shoots a baker in the foot and still grabs his box of goods. In the scene, it's a white box, so maybe they just added this bakery on there so it just doesn't look like a white box and you don't know what that is. Or it's from a scene I'm just not remembering. He does also, when he talks about his father, he talks about, the story always gets more elaborate because his father was killed. And by the time he's done, he's all, you know, when my father was killed, you know, bringing me cannolis or whatever, right? Like because he was a baby, and it just gets more and more elaborate and more twisted. Again, part of what makes Christopher so comedic. But I think they just could have done a better job. Like, this outfit just doesn't seem like Christopher to me. His hair sculpt is a little better. Not exactly right. But again, just like pretty much all the other ones, the heads are kind of hard to exactly get right. These actors don't lend themselves to be Funko-ized and look super accurate. Like Michael Imperioli, some of his facial features is what makes him very recognizable. And you can't really do that with Funko, right? But it's okay. That's why I think that they needed to pay more attention to these bodies to make them more from what makes the characters iconic in the show. And this is not what I think about when I think about Christopher. Still glad they made him. I just wish that the characters were a little bit more in their iconic poses and outfits. Now, I also want to talk about some of the characters I hope they make if this does well. And that would be Furio Gunta, and he's got to be wearing one of his designer shirts. Or they could just have him in a leather jacket holding a baseball bat. That would be good too. Or even a pop ride with Furio and Tony in a golf cart. That would be kind of cool. I also think they should make Adriana Lacerva with one of her elaborate hairdos, maybe in one of her leopard print pantsuits, maybe a chase with her in her tennis outfit. Very memorable for Adriana. I also would like them to make Phil Leotardo. I would also like Ralph Cifaretto, maybe the most memorable, I guess, antagonist, because they're all bad guys, but a bad guy to the bad guys. And definitely in one of his more dandy-ish type of outfits. And also Richie Aprile, and he's got to be holding the jacket. All those would be great to round off this set. Alright, so my final thoughts on the Sopranos set. I'm glad that they made them, even though I wish they were a lot better. Once I get the two exclusives and I put them all together, I think it becomes a little bit more apparent who everybody is, because Paulie Walnuts is so recognizable. Silvio Dante here on the left doesn't come with a stand, but he needs one, because he might fall over before this video is even over. Carmela does come with a stand, even though she does stand on her own. But I also had to manipulate Tony's feet a little bit. If Funko wants their Pops to be displayed outside of the box, I think they need to put more care in them actually standing. And if they can't, they need to start providing stands with all of them, and give collectors the option of displaying them with or without the stands. But Silvio here won't be able to be displayed unless you glue him to a stand or get some sticky tack and put it to the bottom of his feet, which is unfortunate. So despite all the problems I see with this set, I still like it. I'll still buy more, even if they do end up making some of the ones I want and they're not super great like these ones. I'll still get them because it's a Sopranos. Alright guys, let me know in the comments below if you're a Sopranos fan and what you think about these Pops. And if you haven't seen The Sopranos, definitely check it out. One of the best shows of all time. But I will warn you, these aren't good characters. Tony is a misogynist, a murderer, a racist, and a liar. He's a very bad person. But some of the best stories aren't about good people, so be prepared for that. Alright guys, thanks for watching and get out of here.
Hey, where's the freaking gabagoo? You motherfucker.